Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about collections module. Let me illustrate what I want to talk about in an example. We're going to talk about counter. Here we are having a list of 6 strings here. So we are having a list named words. There are 6 strings in this list of ours. Okay, and we see that there are some strings repetitive. For example, apple appears 3 times, banana appears 2 times, and orange appears only 1 time. We would like to count the number of repetition that we are having for each string. For example, we would like to know how many times apple is shown, how many times banana is there, and how many times, for example, orange is there. In order to do that, we can use the counter. Okay, so we are going to use from collection, we are going to import counter. So counter class from built-in collection module is added into this program. So don't forget to have this header. We are going to have counter class from the collection module. Okay. Then we use that counter, and inside parentheses, we write down the name of our list. So the counter class, we are here using it to count the number of occurrences of each word in the words list. Okay, in the words list. So I repeat it, we are going to use the counter, and in parentheses, we write down the name of our list, and we are assigning it to count here. Okay. Then we are going to print this count, and then we are going to print the count and the apple element. What we expect to see in the output when I run this code is the following. So when we are having the print function to print us the count here, it works like a dictionary. So it has apple 3, banana 2, and orange 1. Basically, it says that we are having apple 3 times, we are having banana 2 times, and we are having orange 1 time. So it counts the number of occurrences for each of the unique strings, let's say. Actually, this counter takes an iterable and as argument and return the dictionary-like objects. For example, we are having the keys that are the unique elements like apple, banana, and orange. Then we are having the values that count how many times one element is repeated or appeared. Okay, so keys and values. Exactly, very similar to dictionaries, keys and values. So apple, number 3, 3 times it appeared. Banana, number 2. Orange, number 1. So this is how we are going to count the number of occurrences of each unique element. And then we are also using that count, and then we are having apple. So now when we write down the name of the count here, because we assign the output inside this to this count, okay? When we are having it here in the print function, and then we use the apple string, we are saying that, okay, tell me how many times apple has been appeared. Then it is going to type down the number 3. So if I want to know, for example, count how many times, for example, banana appeared. Okay, sorry, it's okay. So when I run the code one more time, we see number 2 is shown in the output. Why? Because we are talking about banana, and banana appeared 2 times. And when we talk about apples, we see apple appeared 3 times. So we can also talk about each unique element individually using this syntax, or we can print the whole thing and have something like a dictionary in the output saying that apple appears 3 times, banana appears 2 times, and orange appears one time. So this was a good example for the start of this section because we are talking about now the collection module. Let me repeat it one more time. So first of all, we are importing the counter class from the collection module. It's a built-in module, okay? Then we are having a list of strings here. Okay, here is my list of strings. We are having apple appearing 3 times, banana appearing 2 times, and we are having orange. So we are having a list of 6 elements or 6 strings, let's say. Then I use the counter class, and in parentheses, I write down the name of the word. So this counter class is going to create something very similar to a dictionary, okay? That is going to have keys and values. So keys are the unique elements, values are the number of occurrences of that unique element. For example, it says apple and number 3. So apple appeared 3 times, banana appeared 2 times, and orange appeared 1 time. And this is assigned to the count variable here. Then the name is count, but it's very similar to a dictionary, let's say. And then we are having the print of that count. It's a dictionary-like output. So we are having apple 3, banana 2, orange 1. And if we want to only talk about one unique element, we can have the name of the count, and then we are having apple, and the name of the count, the name of banana. So this way we are going to see how many times apple has appeared and banana has appeared. So it was a very interesting example. We're going to dive deeper into this concept in the following videos. Thank you. Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about counter class that is imported from the collection module. So here we are having a string called text, and we are assigning hello world string to text. Then in order to count the number of letters in our string, we are going to use the counter class. And in order to use the counter class, we learned that we simply write down the counter name with capital C, and in parentheses, we write down the name of the list, for example, or the string here in our example, and assign it to a new variable. So this new variable is a dictionary-like variable that is called char count. When we print this char count, we are going to see in the output something like a dictionary. So it says the counter, and then we are seeing L being repeated 3 times, O being repeated 2 times. So we check our string, yes, L, we are having 3L, we are having 2O. For example, we are having 1H, 1E. For example, 1 space is seen there, 1 W, R, and D. So in this example, we are having the example of a string, and we are using the counter to count the number of appearance of different letters. So when I have another string, for example, my string 1, now I'm typing down Reza Shahin. Let me use, okay, Reza Shahin. And we can have my string 2, and this is a Python course, for example, my string 3, and we write down, for example, hello from our Python class. Okay, then I would like to have the counter class to count the number of letters in each one of these strings. So I define a new, let's say, variable here. I write it down, for example, counter my string 1 equals, we use the counter keyword, and I write down my string 1, Then I print I print counter my string 1. Okay, so when I run this code now, we have the second output here being printed, that is talking about the number of repetition of letters in my string 1. So here we see, for example, A has been repeated 2 times, H has been repeated 2 times as well. So we see 2H, and of course we see 2A here. Okay, then we are having the rest of the string letters being repeated only once. And now if I have counter my string 2 equals counter my string 2, then I want to now print this one as well, my string 2. So if I run the code one more time, now we see that here regarding our second string, space being appeared 4 times. So one time here we are having space, then we are having one space here 3 times and 4 times. So space we are having it 3 times. We are having s 3 times here. So one s here, one s here, and one s here. Then T appears 2 times, H appears 2 times until the end. And finally, if I want to type down for the third one, we can have counter my string 3 and then print this counter my string 3. When I run the code, here we see that, for example, letter O has appeared 4 times, space has appeared 4 times. Then we are having the L being appeared 3 times, H 2 times until the end. So it was a very good example to see how we can use the counter class from the collection module to count the number of letters, unique letters, let's say, in different strings. Thank you for watching. Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to have another example about the counter class from collection module. Here we are having a string called text. In our string, we are having this apple, banana, apple, orange, banana, apple, grape. Okay, so here if I use the counter directly to this text, for example, my text counter, and assign it to counter, then text, then I print my text counter. Okay, so let me comment these parts. Here I'm having a string, and this string is having this phrase, for example, apple, banana, etc. until the end, which is grape. Then I use the counter class to count the number of letters in this string and assign it to my text counter. Then I print my text counter. And it says A appeared 11 times, P appeared 7 times, space appeared 6 times, etc. But what if I want to count the number of words in this string? So apple, banana, apple, orange. I want to see how many times apple has appeared in this string. If I want to do that, I need to do the following. I need to use the split function to convert the string into list of words. Okay, so when I use the split function, I would have a list of words and assign it to word underscore list. Then I use the word underscore list in parentheses and call the counter class and assign it to count. Then I print count. So when I run the code now, we see apple appear 3 times, banana 2 times, orange 1 time, and grape 1 time. So it's a very good example. If you're having a string and you would like to count the number of letters in this string, you simply use the counter class, and in parentheses, you write down the name of your string and assign it, for example, to a variable name, for example, here my text counter, and print that. So you will have this output where your strings are, for example, a letter has been appeared 11 times. You're going to count the letters inside this string, the unique letters, let's say. However, if you have a string and you want to see how many times each word has been appeared, then you need to use the split function to convert the string to list of words. Then use counter for that word underscore list. And when you print that, you're going to have this output. Okay, let me illustrate another example. My string 1, for example, it is going to have, this is Reza Shaheen from the online Python course. And then we can have the teacher is Reza Shaheen, and this is my string. Okay, so my string counter, I assign it to counter my string 1. Then I print that, print my string counter. Okay, so if I run this code now, we see that in this string, we are having 13 times the space, we are having age 9 times, etc. until the end. So it is counting the letters, the unique letters. However, if I have the split function, we can have split my string, this is just a name, and assign it to the name of the string, which is my string 1 dot split function. So I simply write down the name of my string dot the split function and assign it to this split underscore my string. Okay, and then I use the, for example, here let me have a name. What can I have? For example, splitted, I would say, for example, equal to split underscore my string here. So I need to clarify this first. So splitted, I don't need that. I need to simply, yeah, split it. Then counter split my string. Okay. Here, when we have that and when I print splitted, I will have how many times each word has been appeared. For example, it says the word is appeared 2 times, the word Reza appeared 2 times, Shaheen appeared 2 times, de appeared 2 times, this appeared 1 time, from appeared 1 time. So if I want to review, we can have the following. We are having a string here, for example, and this is my string, and the name of my string is my string 1. Then I count the number of letters in this string. In order to count the number of unique letters in this string, I use the counter class. Then we are having my string 1 in parentheses and assign it to, for example, a new variable called my string counter. When I print that, it's as we mentioned, it's a dictionary like, so it has keys and values. So it says space 13 times, age 9 times, etc. But what if I want to count the number of words in this string? Okay, in order to do that, we are going to use the split function for my string 1 and assign it to a split my string. Okay, so we are splitting the words, we are converting the string into a list of words and assigning it to split my string. Okay, then I use the counter, and in parentheses I write down this name, split my string. So it's a list of words, and we are going to use the counter to count the number of appearance of each unique words. and we are going to assign that to splitted, and then we print the splitted. So we see that is, for example, appear 2 times, Reza appear 2 times, Shaheen appear 2 times. It's a very good example for you to see what you want to do with your string. If you want to have the number of letters being counted, the number of unique letters being counted, so you simply use directly the name of your string and use the counter. However, if you want to know the number of unique words that are appearing in your string, you first need to use the split function, assign it to a new variable, and that variable has a list of words for you, and write down the name of the list of words inside the parentheses for the counter, assign it to a new variable called splitted, then print that splitted, and we see in the output we are having it here. Thank you for watching. Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to talk about default dictionary. We are going to import default dic here and then from the collection module. Okay, here we are trying to create a dictionary-like object where missing keys automatically get a value of 0. So here we see argument int, sorry. So argument int here is not a number. It's a function that returns 0 when called without argument. So we are ensuring that any missing key is given a default value of 0. Okay, and we are initializing a special dictionary where we are having keys that can be anything like apple, banana, orange, etc. And values are integers by default, but we can update them. So let me illustrate it with an example. So we are initializing here inventory, and when I print the inventory right away, we see that it's empty. We see that it says default dictionary, well, default dic, and then we are having here nothing inside of it. Okay, but if we want to add a key to this one, because we said that it's a dictionary, like it has key and value. Okay, exactly like a dictionary. So key and value. So if we would like to add a new key to this one, we simply write down the name of our dictionary inventory, and then we write down, for example, the key, which is apple, for example, in this example for us. Then we are having plus equal 1. It means that we are going to have apple, and apple is going to have a value 1. So the key apple is added, and its corresponding value is 1. So now when I print the inventory, we see apple and 1. Okay, now I can also add another, for example, key and value. For example, inventory, we can have banana, and then we can have plus equal 5, for example. Now if I print inventory here, when we run the code, we see that, okay, now in this part we are having apple 1 time but banana 5 times. Okay, so this is how we can have a dictionary like object to be used to give us a default value of 0. But let me illustrate another example. So with normal dictionaries, what we are doing now was not possible. For example, we are creating a dictionary, it's empty. And when I want to print the apple, for example, in this dictionary, it brings me an error. You see, it says that it doesn't exist, key error. Apple does not exist yet. But here, we were simply adding apple directly to our dictionary, and because we were using the default dic, it was considering a default value of 0 for it. But in our normal dictionary, we cannot do that. It's not possible. This is why we can use this type of default dic to help us to have a better output, and it's easier to work with. So if I want to create, for example, another one, I would say stockpile equals default dic, and I write down the int. So this integer, again, it's not a number, it's a function that returns 0 without argument. Okay, so it ensures that we are having any missing key is given a default value 0. Okay, so we are initializing keys with a default value of 0. Therefore, we're not going to have error when I talk about apple or banana. Okay, so this is how actually it works. Anything can be our key with a default value of 0. This is how it works. Then now I would like to have my stockpile and add, for example, mask to my stockpile plus equal 2. Okay, then I would like to add, for example, wizards, masks, wizards plus equal to, for example, 10. And then I print my stockpile here. So when I run the code, here we see we are having 2 masks and 10 wizards. This is a very good way to have a dictionary-like object to work with. You can add very easily your elements, and you can have the keys being added, and at the same time the corresponding value can be added to the dictionary, and you can see it in the output. And we showed that it's not possible to do it with the normal dictionaries. In the following videos we're going to have some more examples of default dictionaries. Thank you. Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to have an example of default dictionary with lists. Here, we are creating an empty list with no argument, and this default dictionary list means missing keys will get an empty list automatically and are assigned to grouped words. Then we are having a list of tuples here called words, and we are having for fruit category, it contains apple, fruit category, it contains banana, vegetable category, it contains carrot, and fruit category again, we are having orange inside of it. So we would like to group the containers of the same category next to each other. So we would like to have fruits, then we have the apple, banana, and orange. Then we would like to have vegetables, then carrot. So we would like the fruits to be next to each other, and we don't want to have fruits 3 times. And then we would like to have carrot for vegetables. In order to do that, we need to first iterate through the words. Okay, and words is a list of tuple. Here we are having a for loop with 2 iterating variables, category and item. For each category and item that are in words, we are going to append the item to the corresponding category in grouped words. Okay, and grouped words was an empty list. We created an empty list with no argument here and assigned it here. And because we use the default dictionary, it means that when we are having some keys that are missing, they are going to get empty list automatically. Okay, so this is why we can assign it to grouped words here. So here I am iterating through the word list of my tuples for 2 iterating items. In each iteration, we are adding this item to its corresponding category in grouped words. And when all this has finished, we are going to have the print in the output. So when I run this code, we see the default dictionary class, this time list. Then we are having the fruit, apple, banana, and orange. And then vegetable, and then here we are having, for example, carrot, as you see it here in the output. Basically, in this part, we are saying that for the first iteration, grouped words, we are saying for example, for fruit, append, the first one is, for example, apple, okay? And let me have it in the code as well. Okay. So here before that, we were never having the category of fruit, but we are having it here because we were having a list, an empty list with no arguments. So now we are having the category fruit to be inserted and created for the first time in these grouped words. Then we are appending apple as one of the items of this category. Then in the second iteration, we are having grouped words. Then here we are having again fruit, and then dot append. Here we are appending banana. Okay. Then we are having in the third iteration, the previous one was the second iteration. Now in the third iteration, we are having the category vegetable. So we were not having this category so far. Now we are going to create it. And then we are going to append carrot to this category. And finally, we are going to have grouped words. Then here we are having fruit dot append in parentheses we are having orange. So we are appending orange to the fruit category. Okay. So what happens in the for loop is that we are going through the categories here and then the items here, and in each iteration we are appending that item to its corresponding fruit in grouped words that we created here. Okay. So apple is appended to the category of fruit, banana is appended to the category of fruit, carrot is appended to the category of vegetable, and orange is appended to the category of fruit. So now we filled the grouped words list. Then here we are simply printing the grouped word. So when I run this code, we see that for the first category, which is fruit, we are having apple, banana, and orange. And then we are having for the second category, vegetable, and we see that item that contains in vegetable is carrot. So this is how we can have our list here. So if I want to have another one, for example, we can have grouped sport here. Let me go up a bit. Yeah. Grouped sport here we could have, and then we can have default dictionary, and we are initializing it with list again. And we can have, for example, this example here, as you see, we could have, for example, cricket for India, cricket for Australia, cricket for England, and cricket, for example, for South Africa. And finally, we're going to close this list. So it's a list of tuple, and the category for all of them is cricket, and the item is different countries. So you see we are having, for example, India, Australia, England, and South Africa in the category of cricket. Then we could have other categories as well. So we could have, for example, soccer, we could have basketball, we could have different categories. So let me add one more category here. We could have, for example, soccer, and we could have, for example, France as its item, for example. So this is the category. Category is soccer. Okay. Now, if I want to have the iteration over this list, we again can have a for loop here. We can have a for loop for each category, an item in sport. We are going to append that item to its corresponding category for the grouped sport, and then we are going to print the group sport. So here we see that for cricket, we are having India, Australia, England, and South Africa. And for soccer, we are having France. So actually, this is how we can create our default list, a default dictionary with lists. Here we did that. Then we created a list of tuples called sports. Here we are having two categories, cricket and soccer. In the cricket category, it contains India, Australia, England, South Africa. And for soccer, we are having France only. Then, in order to transfer this list of tuples to our grouped sport, we need to iterate through this first. So we have two iterating variables because we're having category and items. So for each category and item in sports, here, this is the list of tuples, we are going to append that item in the corresponding category for the grouped sport. Okay, so for example, in the first iteration, we are going to have grouped sport, and the category is, for example, cricket dot append, and the item is, for example, India. Okay, then we are going to have grouped sport. We are going to have again cricket dot append. We're going to append Australia this time. Australia. Then we are going to have grouped sport. Then here we again have cricket dot append England. England. In the next iteration, we are having grouped sport. We are appending the South. Sorry, I need to add one code here. Append South Africa, then grouped sport. Finally, we are going to have soccer here. So we are having two categories, cricket and soccer. And finally, we are going to append France. So in this iteration, we see it here. We are appending different items to its corresponding category in the grouped sport India, in the cricket category for grouped sport Australia item is appended to the cricket category. For the group sport England, the same thing, South Africa, the same thing, and finally France is appended to the soccer category in the grouped sport. Then when we print grouped sport, we see in the output in the cricket category, we have India, Australia, England, and South Africa. And for soccer, we are having France. Thank you for watching. Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to have a coding exercise with respect to default dictionaries. So we would like to create a default dictionary with set as default factory. Here, we are having default dictionary, and in parentheses, this time we are having a set. So this having set in parentheses creates an empty set when called with no argument. And this default dictionary set ensures missing keys start with an empty set. Okay. Here we are having a list of tuples. First, in the category A, for example, we're having apple, category A, banana, category B, apple, and category A, apple again. Okay. And now we would like to assign these categories and their corresponding items to our unique words. Okay. In order to do that, we need to have the iteration. So we use for loops for each key and value. These are two iterating variables. For each key and value in entries, which is our list of tuple, we are going to add the value to its corresponding key for the unique words. Okay, so when we are iterating, for example, unique words. The key is A, for example, and we are going to add its corresponding value, which is apple. Okay. In the next iteration, we are having unique words. The category or the key is, let's say, A. Then we are going to add the banana. Then we are having unique words. There we are having the key B, and we are adding apple. Finally, we are having unique words. And here we are in the category A, and we would like to add apple. Okay. But this last iteration is not going to work. Why? Because here we created a set. Okay, so this default dictionary set ensures missing keys start with an empty set. And if you remember, one of the feature of sets was the fact that they do not accept repetitive elements. Duplicate elements are not allowed in sets. And already in the first iteration, we added apple to A. So here we cannot again add apple to A. So we have banana to A. So banana is not duplicate, so it's inserted in A. Apple in B, it's possible because in category B, this is the first time that the apple appears. Then in category A, we would like to append or add the item that is apple. We cannot do that because we are dealing with sets, and although we will have this iteration, but we are not going to have a second apple in category A. Finally, we are going to print these unique words that we created here and we filled here in the for loop. When we run the code, in the output, we see the set. And then we see in the category A, we are having banana and apple. In category B, we are only having apple. So let me have another example. For example, we can have unique sports. Okay, and the default dictionary is set. So we can have entries to equal to, for example, here we are going to have different categories. We could have, for example, for soccer, we can have France. Then for soccer, we can have England. For basketball, we can have USA. Then for soccer, again, we can have, for example, we can have, for example, Italy. Then for soccer, again, we would like to have France again. And finally, I would like to have the basketball, then France here as well. Okay. So here is my entry. Then in order to fill my unique sport, I am iterating with two iterating variables where I'm iterating through the entry 2, and then these are two iterating variables. So in each iteration, we are adding that value to its corresponding key in unique sports. Okay. So for example, here we are having the unique sport. So it's soccer, and its value is France. We are having unique sports. it is soccer in the next iteration. Then we are having England. We are having unique sports here in the third iteration. Then it is basketball, and we are adding the USA. Then we are having unique sports. We are again having soccer here. We are having soccer here, and we are adding Italy this time. We are adding Italy. Now we are having unique sports in the next iteration. It will be soccer, and we are adding France. We are adding France, but it's not going to be inserted. It is not going to be inserted. Why? Because we already added France to the category of soccer, and this France is duplicate, so we cannot add it one more time. And in the last iteration, finally, we are having unique sports. We see basketball, and we add France here as well. So these are the iteration. In the first iteration, we add France to soccer, we add England to soccer, USA to basketball, Italy to soccer. So far, all of them are unique. Then we want to add soccer to France to soccer. We see that France is already inserted, so we are not going to insert that because we are following set rules. We are having empty set when we created unique sports. Then we are having France added to basketball. Okay, and then we print it. So we are having two categories, soccer and basketball. And in the first category, when I run the code, we see we are having France, Italy, and England. France, England, and Italy. Then in the basketball, we are having France and USA. And as you see, we are having France in basketball and USA. So for the category B, we are having one France and one USA. And for category basketball, sorry, we are having two elements, France and USA. And for category soccer, we are having France, Italy, and England. And the duplicate of the France is not inserted in the soccer category, as we can see it here in the output. So this is how we can use the default dict here and use set as the default factory. So it is going to create an empty set when called with no arguments, and it ensures missing keys start with an empty set. Then we had a list of tuples. We iterate through that, and we add the elements into the unique words that we are having here. Thank you for watching. Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about named tuple. So we're importing named tuple from the collection module. Okay. Here we're defining a named tuple called point with two fields x and y, and we are assigning it to a variable called point. Then we are here creating an instance called p of the point with x equals 3 and 4. Okay. Why x equals 3 and 4? Because we are creating an instance of point. Okay. And then the point has x and y. So 3 equals x and 4 equals y here. And in order to access the values, we can use dot notation. So we use the print function. We will have p.x and comma p.y to access these 3 and 4. And also we can print the entire named tuple instance. So when I run this code, for this line, p.x and p.y, we are having numbers 3 and 4 that we assigned here. Then when we are creating when we are printing the entire named tuple instance, we see that it says point coming from here, and x equals 3, y equals 4. So this is how the name tuple can be created. But why do we need name tuple and we're not using regular tuple here? Let me clarify it. So using the regular tuple, it's a bit hard to read. For example, when we are having a tuple called point, we are having two elements, 3 and 4. And when we want to print them, we simply print the element with index 0 and print the element with index 1, which is 4. So it's we sometimes we need to think, okay, what is point the index 0 of the point tuple, and what about this one? So you need to remember that the index 0 of the point tuple means x, and index 1 of the point tuple means y. So we need to remember it. This is a bit hard when we are having like 200, 300, maybe 2000 lines of code that you need to remember. For example, in certain specific tuples, the first element is x and the second element is y. Therefore, it's easier for us to use named tuple over the regular tuple, because as you see it here, we are using the named tuple and we are simply importing the class from the module, and then we are having a class, a named tuple, sorry, with x and y. And when we are creating an instance of the point, we see that 3 and 4 are x and y because we are simply using p.x and p.y. So when we call p.x, the first element is called. When we write p.y, the second element is called. So we don't have to worry about the thing that we may not remember the first element of which tuple is x, for example, or the second element of which tuple is y, etc. So it's clear and readable, and you don't need to remember index positions. This is the first reason why named tuple are very good. Secondly, we have regular tuples that are mutable, so we can modify them. For example, here I'm having a tuple called point. It has two elements, 3 and 4, and we can reassign the whole tuple. We can have 5 and 6 now to be assigned to the same tuple. However, when we are having named tuple, they are immutable, so we cannot modify them. Once we create uh, an instance of that named tuple, for example, with x equals 3 and y equals 4, we cannot reassign the x to be 5 now. They are immutable and we're going to have errors. So this protects data integrity for us. It's very important. And for example, here, let me create another one, another named tuple. We can have point 2, x and y. Then here I create an instance of the point 2. Here, instead of 3 and 4, I would say simply 5 and 8, for example. If I want to access the elements, the values, we can use the dot notation as we discussed. So I write down print, then I say the name of the instance, which is p2.x and p2.y. So when we have this, we expect to see 5 and 8 in the output. And here we can also print the whole name tuple instance to have it completely printed. So here, when I print p.x and p.y as before, we see 3 and 4. Then when I have the second instance p2.x and p2.y, 5 and 8 are printed in the output as you see it here. And then we entirely print the named tuple instance, which is x equals 3 and y equals 4, which are these ones that are assigned to our instance. And finally, when we are printing the entire p2 name tuple, we are having the x equals 5 and y equals 8. So this is how actually we can use name tuples, and we discussed about the advantages of name tuple over the regular tuples. Thank you for watching. Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about the application of name tuple. For example, here we learn how to store and access latitude and longitude with clear feed names instead of indices. Here we are importing the collection module, and we would like to work with name tuple. First of all, we define a name tuple for GPS coordinates. For example, we would like to store a GPS coordinates that we got from the Google map, let's say. And simply using the name tuple, we can have a coordinates with its latitude and longitude. Okay. And then, for example, we are going to create an instance of that coordinate, and we are naming it NYC or New York. Then we are going to here, when we are creating an instance here, we are inserting the latitude and longitude respectively. And finally, if we would like to access it, we can write down the name of the instance that we created and then put a dot and then the latitude and dot, the longitude. Therefore, when we use the print function, we see these two numbers in the output. So instead of writing, for example, NYC for the index 0 and NYC for index 1, now we are using nyc.latitude and nyc.longitude. It helps to improve the code readability because it makes sense. For example, now that I see, okay, here we're talking about the NYC, which is probably New York, and its latitude. And here we are talking about NYC longitude. Okay, we are talking about a coordinate. So it's understandable for someone who does not develop this code, who didn't develop this code. It's understandable for that person as well, most probably. Instead of having, for example, in the output, for example, NYC 0 and NYC1. When we are having this in the output, probably we need to have a comment somewhere saying that, for example, I'm using NYC0 to have the latitude being printed out in the output and NYC1 to have the longitude being printed out in the output. However, if I use the indexing like this, most probably we need to insert comment. For example, these are talking about the latitude and longitude coordinates imported, for example, from Google Maps for New York City. Okay, so probably we need to provide a comment so other people, when they are reading our code, they can understand that what we're talking about. It's way easier to use latitude and longitude, so it improves the code readability. Here, let me have another example. For example, I could have coordinate 2. I use name tuple, and then have I have the, for example, coordinate 2. Then we are having, for example, the latitude and longitude here. Okay, so this is another name tuple that we are defining for our GPS coordinates. And this time, when I want to create an instance of this coordinate, I, for example, type down Montreal. So we are going to talk about the Montreal, and then we are having coordinate 2, and we can have a number, for example, 45.5017 and minus 73 dot whatever, just a number. Okay, Then, in order to access that, we simply print and I write down the name of my instance that I created, which is Montreal, then dot, and then latitude, and with a comma I separate it from the longitude, so I write down the name of my instance again, and this time put a dot and I type down longitude here. So when I print that, we should see the coordinates in the output again, like we inserted here. So we see that we can provide coordinates, GPS coordinates, and use a name tuple to have the latitude keyword and longitude keyword, making our code more readable. And then we are creating an instance of that name tuple, and using that instance, we can have access to latitude and longitude that we created earlier. Thank you for watching. Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we would like to represent a student record using name tuple. Here, we are importing name tuple from the collection module, and we are defining a name tuple for student information. And we are having the name to be student. In this name tuple, we are having three elements: name, age, and grade. So we see that it's possible to have more than two element in our name tuple. So for example, if we are having a coordinate example, we can have two elements, x and y, representing the x coordinates and y coordinates. However, we can have more than two elements in our named tuple. For example, we can have a student record here where we store name, age, and grade of one student. Then we would like to create two instances of this name tuple. So S1 and S2, and we need three pieces of information in order to create our instance. For example, Alice for the name, 21 for the age, and A for the grade. This is the instance of the first student. Then we are having the instance of the second student, where we see that Bob, 22 years old, and with the grade B. But how can we access these values? In order to access these values, we can simply write down the name of our instance, dot name, to have the name of the first student being printed, and then to print the grade of the first student, we can write down the name of the instance, which is S1, then dot grade. Okay. And if we want to have only one piece of information about one of the students, we write down its corresponding instance, which is S2, for example, and the age. For example, now we are going to have the Bob's age being printed out in the output to be 22, as we see here. And for the first print, we are having Alice, and the grade is A. So if I have another instance, for example, here, student, I write down, for example, Reza. The age is 25. Let me write it with capital S. Yeah, okay. And the grade is A. Now I can use the instance S3 to access the information of Reza. For example, I can have the name, I can have the age, I can have the grade, all of these things I can have, or we can print it only one piece of information. For example, I just want to know the grade of Reza, so I simply write down print s3.grade. So I created a new instance here for our name tuple. The name is Reza, the age is 25, and the grade is A. Then I use the S3 instance to access the name, the age, and the grade of Reza. I'm printing it in the output. And also, if we want only the grade of Reza, we can do that. We can go ahead and use the instance and then dot grade to simply print A for us in the output. We can, of course, add some message here so it's easier to understand. We could say the grade of Reza, or for example, third student, then we print it. So when I run the code now, we see this message, the grade of Reza, third student, A. And here also we are having Reza 25A. We could have different messages being shown. So the name of the student, then we could have, for example, the age of the student. And then here again, we could have the grade of the student. So when I run the code, it's easier to understand now. So I'm typing the name of the student is Reza. Okay, let me put a comma here and here, because we are having Reza, but there is nothing between Reza and the new sentence. So now we are having this, the name of the student Reza, the age of the student 25, and the grade of the student A. So this is how we can use name tuple for student record system. Thank you for watching.